Hello, dear friends. Today, I will bring you an interesting story that you will surely enjoy. Prepare a seat, a cup of coffee, and let's start exploring the story. Today's story is about returning early from a business trip. I discovered my unfaithful wife's lover's luxury Mercedes. I took my revenge swiftly. The flight from Paris to Zurich touched down just as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the city in shades of amber and gold. I had been away for 5 grueling days, intense meetings and presentations that left me drained both physically and mentally. Yet tonight, exhaustion was the last thing on my mind. I felt exhilarated. My wife, Emily, was my everything. She always said she adored surprises, so I decided to come home earlier than planned without letting her know. I could already imagine her delighted expression as I walked through the door unannounced, holding a vintage bottle of wine I'd carefully chosen at a renowned Parisian shop. As I turned onto our quiet suburban street, something unusual caught my attention. Parked right in front of our house was a sleek black Mercedes-Benz AMG, a car that screamed affluence and ego. It was a vehicle I'd never seen before. It didn't belong to anyone in the neighborhood, and certainly not to Emily or me. A sense of unease settled in the pit of my stomach. I parked several houses away, killing the engine and sitting there in silence, staring at the Mercedes. My heartbeat quickened. Perhaps it was a client of Emily's? As an interior designer, she often worked with elite clientele who could easily own such a car. But why would a client be here at this hour? My instinct said otherwise. I decided to investigate quietly, leaving my suitcase in the car. From the sidewalk, I could see the faint, inviting glow of the living room through the partially drawn curtains. I moved closer, careful not to make a sound. Inside, I could see figures moving. Emily's laughter floated out into the crisp evening air, light, carefree, and melodic. It struck me that I hadn't heard her laugh like that in months. A deeper, masculine voice followed, smooth and confident. My jaw tightened. Who was this man in my home? Peering through the small gap in the curtains, I froze. Emily was curled up on the couch, her legs tucked beneath her, holding a glass of red wine. Next to her sat a man in his mid-40s, polished and self-assured, dressed in a perfectly tailored suit. His arm rested casually on the back of the couch, too close to her for comfort. He leaned in, whispering something that made her laugh again, and I saw her hand briefly graze his arm. The intimacy of their posture left no room for doubt. A hot wave of anger surged through me, but I forced myself to remain calm. A confrontation now would achieve nothing. I needed a plan, a deliberate, precise way to make him pay. Retreating into the shadows, I made my way toward the Mercedes. If this man thought he could step into my life and take what was mine, he was in for a brutal lesson. Back at my car, I opened the toolbox I always carried. Years ago, I had worked as a mechanic to put myself through college, and those skills hadn't left me. Grabbing a wrench and a pair of wire cutters, I crouched beside the Mercedes. First, I loosened the bolts on the rear wheels, ensuring they'd come off with disastrous consequences. Then, I severed the brake lines, a guarantee that the car wouldn't get far. Finally, I poured sugar into the gas tank, an old mechanic's trick that would wreak havoc on the engine. My work complete, I returned to my vehicle and waited. It wasn't long before the man emerged from the house, walking with the swagger of someone who believed himself untouchable. Adjusting his cufflinks as he descended the steps, he paused at the doorway to kiss Emily, slowly, deliberately. Fury coursed through me as I watched. He climbed into the Mercedes, completely unaware of the sabotage. I followed at a safe distance as he drove through the quiet streets of Zurich. At first, the car ran smoothly, but as we reached the outskirts of the city, it began to falter. The rear wheels wobbled, smoke poured from the hood, and the car veered erratically before grinding to a halt. I watched from a distance, satisfaction washing over me. The lesson had begun. The Mercedes came to a jerky halt on a desolate road. I pulled over at a distance, watching from the shadows. The man stepped out, cursing loudly as he inspected the car. Frustration seeped into his movements as he kicked the tires and paced around. Finally, he pulled out his phone, likely to call for help. This was my moment. Gripping the tire iron, I approached calmly, my footsteps muffled by the night. He didn't notice me until I was only a few feet away. "Car trouble?" I asked, my voice steady and deliberate. He spun around, startled. "Who the hell are you?" I gave him a cold smile. "The husband of the woman you've been sleeping with." His face paled briefly, but he quickly masked it with false confidence. "Look, I don't know what you're talking about." Before he could finish, the tire iron smashed against the car's sleek body, leaving a deep dent in the polished metal. He flinched, his bravado crumbling. "You thought you could walk into my house and take what's mine," I said, advancing on him. He stumbled backward, raising his hands defensively. "Wait, listen, this is a misunderstanding." "Save it," I snapped, gripping the tire iron tighter. "You're going to pay for this." Literally. Revenge wasn't enough. I wanted to ruin him entirely. Over the next few days, I carefully set my plan into motion. The photos I'd discreetly taken of his ID and the hotel receipt became the starting point. His name was Alexander Weiss, a well-known figure in Zurich's high-end real estate market. A quick search of his social media painted a picture of a man who thrived on his wealth, connections, and charm. With the help of a friend in cybersecurity, I delved deeper, uncovering his skeletons. Emails revealed a web of fraudulent business deals, offshore accounts, and a trail of affairs with married women. I compiled every damning piece of evidence into a detailed dossier. On a crisp Friday morning, the expose went public. I sent the dossier anonymously to a renowned journalist who specialized in corporate corruption, as well as to his business partners and his wife. By noon, Alexander's name was plastered across headlines for all the wrong reasons. His business associates quickly severed all ties, holding an emergency meeting to distance themselves. That same day, his wife filed for divorce, taking their children and a substantial portion of his fortune. Meanwhile, Emily was unraveling. The scandal had exposed her infidelity, tarnishing her reputation among our social circle. Friends stopped calling. Clients began canceling contracts. When she finally approached me, teary-eyed and apologetic, I met her words with bitter laughter. "You didn't just betray me, Emily. You betrayed yourself. Enjoy the life you chose." The following week, I filed for divorce, ensuring I retained the house and most of our shared assets. Emily, now jobless and ostracized, moved into a small, modest apartment on the outskirts of the city. As for me, I redirected my energy into rebuilding my life. I reconnected with old friends, reignited hobbies I'd long neglected, and even started dating again. Revenge was satisfying, but the true liberation came from understanding that my worth didn't depend on Emily or anyone else. Standing on the balcony of my newly renovated home, a glass of wine in hand, I let a smile cross my face. When someone shows you who they truly are, believe them. Then take the time to paint your own masterpiece. Thank you for sharing in this journey with me. If this story resonated with you, please give the video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to our channel. I've noticed many of you enjoy these stories but haven't yet subscribed. By subscribing, you're not just following a channel. You're joining a community that values rich, meaningful storytelling. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss a new tale. See you in the next stories.